So do you need a knife that you can just thrash on and it can keep on ticking, but you only have about 25 bucks to spend? We got some actual seat belt here. Let's see how this knife handles it. Very nice and smooth. Then I am so stoked to introduce to you the Cold Steel GI Tanto. This knife has been around for quite a while. It's nothing new to the market, but it's new to me, and testing it out and thrashing on it. And folks, I gotta tell you, I paid about $23 for this knife. We're gonna have links in the description below over to Amazon, and it is worth every single penny of the $23 I spent. It has just been thrashed on, beat up, trashed, and it just keeps on ticking. There's nothing that I can say that I could, you know, it's not a regrettable purchase at all. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ins and outs of the GI Tanto, see what it has to offer and what Cold Steel is producing with this knife, and whether or not this might be a great truck knife for you, survival knife, backup survival knife, just beater blade to have around, or even possibly a backup soldier knife. So let's go ahead, jump into it, and see what this GI Tanto can do. Man, this thing is so impressive in its toughness and capability. Honestly, my mind is getting blown every time that I use it. It's just when you find something that's so cheap and gives you such a big value and performance level to that price point, it's just fun. So what we're looking at here overall for you guys for the specs is from the handle to the tip, we're looking at like 7¼ inches overall. The actual cutting edge is 5.75 inches long. Now the thickness is going to be a full tang all the way through, is going to be 0.16. So that's going to be about 5/32, which is actually a little bit on the thin side, but because of how they've just tempered this and heat treated it, this thing is tough as nails and comes in at about the same weight as most 3/16" knives in its similar size range at 12 ounces even. This does have a low saber grind. You can see there's very low for its grind angle. It's like 1/3 of the blade length instead of most would come up to about here. Now that means that it's going to be very strong, and that's probably where some of that strength comes in as well. It's not a chisel grind. It's definitely, you know, a saber grind. You have that huge blank spot right here to really choke up straight into that Tanto and into that sharp clip. It's not razor sharp, but I mean, if I really sliced my finger along there, I would probably cut it open, or almost. So it could easily get a sharpened swedge here if you wanted to do about 2.5 inches of a swedge. You could easily, after about 30 minutes of sharpening it, get it to that level if you wanted to. Very strong tip, but very precise. So I mean, that thing is going to stab and penetrate GI, you know, thinking soldier. So if you are looking for just a really inexpensive soldier knife, this would definitely give you that capability with that Tanto edge there to hit that and give you a lot of strength in that blade. And I was really surprised with our chopping and hacking that I would hit right about here, right using that corner, and man, it bit in and really took out some chunks impressively well. So I was really pleased with that. And even with our finer cutting tasks, particularly wood stuff, I was really pleased. I was shocked actually with how low the grind is. It's probably because of how fine you can get the edge with that 1055 steel, which is definitely a lower grade than 1095 or even 1075, but they've done such a heat treat that it's holding a decent edge. Now 1095 will hold an edge better, but this is holding a very decent edge, and it's easy, super easy. I mean, on a wet rock, you could get this razor sharp. So I'm able to get it razor sharp right away, and that gives me the ability to do the finer cuts for woods if I had to. Again, not ideal, but if I had to do it, I could, and you guys have seen that through the action. I'd get some feather sticks for a fire going if I had to. I would definitely not enjoy making notches or triggers or traps. That would not be fun to do with this blade at all, but it would do just enough to probably get me by for a fire or something like that. And as I said, impressed with the hack stacking, splitting as well. It was able to handle all that type of stuff. He just hammering away on this thing, and no bending, warping, anything like that. Just super, super tough knife. And as well as, again, going back to that GI idea, all of the man-made material, was really surprised and pleased with how it handled the man-made material as well, because of how fine you can get that 1055 steel. So really pleased overall. Regardless, basically a jack of all trades knife. It's not going to be a master of anything, but for $25 you can get a jack of all trades knife that would be at home if you had to, in a survival situation, in a combat situation, or a utility situation, and you're going to know, hey, I can kick the crap out of this thing. It's going to be able to take it, and even if it doesn't, which what I've seen, it is very tough, but who cares? I paid 25 bucks for it. So very, very cool setup and capable for what it is. Know what it is, you know, as long as you understand the system that it applies in, man, it is just fun. It's a blast. So this Secure X sheath that comes on the GI Tanto is awesome. I mean, for the price point, again, it's just mind-boggling how Cold Steel is producing this knife. So we got a molded plastic polymer sheath. You know, I love those style of sheaths. Cold Steel makes a lot of their knives with this style, and for the most part, they work out well. We got a little drainage hole down here. We got a nice bit of webbing that you can unvelcro with a button and attach to your belt without taking your belt off. We've got a nice button snap here, as well as a backup for retention in case it were to fall out. You've got that nice guard there just to keep it, you know, nice and in place. And then you got a nice thumb location so you can pull the blade out, use it, locks back into place, not going to fall out, rather silent. I mean, mind-boggling how this, I mean, a lot of companies would be selling their sheath for 20 bucks. So the whole kit and caboodle, you know, at 23 is insane. So great Secure X sheath for the price point on this knife. Now on to the handle. Now the handle here is going to be a polymer plastic, very tough, durable. You know, they have a little bit of like a skin texturing almost, which is nice. So it's not super slick. It is slicker than I would prefer, but you can do anything from wrapping hockey tape to using a Dremel tool and etching in some lines there. Again, you pay $25 for this. Who cares? You can make G10 micarta if you want to. They even have some concaving in here, which really fills out the hand well. I wear large size gloves, and I share that with you guys so you can determine in proportion to your hands where this knife would sit. Now it has from the handle to the top portion right here, that's going to be 4 inches, and then from the handle to the bottom is going to be 4.5. So just keep that in consideration. It's a little bit on the short side, but you can see there's still just a little bit past my hand when I'm up against the guard. Now it has that top and bottom guard, again going to that GI soldier combat situation idea. It's definitely going to keep you locked into place for those scenarios. Now because it's thin and not wide and flat like say a K-bar fighting utility knife, it's not going to be super fun if you were doing tons and tons of stabbing. You know, you're gonna hit this and it's just gonna hurt your pinkies and it's not gonna be very comfortable. So just kind of keep that in consideration. Or if you're in here, it's gonna bite into your hand, you know, if you're doing lots of stabbing, but it will definitely keep you from coming up and hurting yourself. So you're definitely, the safety factor of keeping your hand from riding up on the blade is definitely there. Then you have this really big, deep choil, I mean, that's what it is, for you to be able to grab. You can, it splits your finger right there, and then I can actually get my thumb right there, and I can again do the decent carving task. Not ideal, but you can get it done if you have to in an emergency situation. And obviously because of the price, I mean, you could strip this thing, grind this off right here if you have a good grinder, the top guard, and then it would look something like this. And I have seen guys do that online and they really dig it, you know, and they kind of even modify the heck out of this thing. And that's where we're kind of mold into at this point. I think this knife would be a great knife for those of you who are wanting to get into either building your own knives and you're wanting to maybe see, can I be a knife maker? Or you just like modding stuff. You can't get anything without modding it, tricking it out, doing your own thing to it. This is a great knife to do it because there's a lot of capability and a lot of potential, and it's really cheap. So if you screw up, it's not a big deal. You can go out and get another one and hone your skills. So say for example, you've never stripped a coating off a knife before, this would be a great knife to do that. And then you maybe want to work on patinas, maybe you want to try some mustard patinas, and maybe you have a much more expensive knife that you want to do that to, but you're not sure what it'll turn out to be. Hey, buy this knife, it'll still serve you very well, and you can kind of work with it, play with it, test it out a few times, try a couple different stripping techniques, try a couple different patina techniques to see what you like, and then you can do that with your more expensive blade. The tip as well, if you want to modify this thing, I've seen guys totally regrind and reprofile the entire blade and make it into not a tanto but a drop point with a sweep up design. I've seen guys do that, so if you want to really work on grinding skills, then this would be a great knife to do it. It's 1055, so it's very easy to work with and modify and trick out in that regard. Again, grinding off the top guard if you want to, or maybe you want to get into handle scales. You want to maybe start your own handle scale business, doing G10, doing micarta. You don't really know where to begin, or you just want to do it for yourself, whatever it may be, then this would be a great knife to do that. They just bolt right off. It has very simple measurements, not a lot of craziness going on, and finger grooves and humps and all that kind of stuff. And then you could work on building your own handle scales so that you can hone your skills on this knife and then start to do them for more expensive, higher end blades that are harder to work with. You can get your foot in the door with this blade, and that's what I think is really fun with this knife as well. It's to kind of get your foot in the door to modifying knives if you want to, and kind of learn how to trick out your stuff so that you can do it on a very cheap and expensive knife, and then you'll be able to feel more confident doing it on one of your more high-end knives. Well folks, there you have it. I mean, yeah, you can go drop $70 on a knife that's going to come with a slightly better steel. It's going to not have the top guard and be maybe more of a drop point design blade. But for the price point, this has a crossover capability of being a, soldier knife if you had to, and this is what you needed, more of a hand-to-hand combat, tactical utility blade. Absolutely has those capabilities with the good guard, with the Tanto design overall, the toughness, the durability, and just the overall grip, but also can get some definite outdoors, hacking and chopping. Was really surprised at the chopping when you just hit in that little sweet spot right there. Even with that really big finger groove, basically acting as a choil, you can sit in and get, rather good feather sticks done, if you had to. And if this was the only blade you had, and your truck rolled over and you had to spend the night or, walk home, whatever it was, and do some stuff and have to use this as a backup survival knife or your main survival knife. You're just on a really tight budget. I think this would be a great knife to have. I think it would be a great knife to pair with like a more heavy-duty companion, and use that knife for all of your finer work, and then use this for all your hacking and your splitting and just harder tasks that you may have to do. And you don't have to worry about it. I mean, you can just thrash and beat on this thing all day, and it's like, hey man, it cost me like 25 bucks. I mean, who cares, and it just keeps on ticking with that 1055 steel. It's just super, super tough and holds a decent edge for that price point and for the steel that it is. Really surprised with the overall capability. Totally digging this blade. Can't recommend it enough. If you feel like it fits a need for you, I think you're going to be super stoked, and it's just fun. I mean, it's like, hey man, for the price of like movie and popcorn, you can get yourself a brutally tough and durable, bigger, survival knife, tactical knife. So guys, thank you so much for coming over here, checking out the channel. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video. Hope this video has helped you out with your decisions on whether or not this knife will fit inside one of your systems. And always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.